Hey guys, today we will be talking about the book The White Mountains by John Christopher. At first I thought it would be really boring, but I was actually wrong. This story starts off by talking about a rare one-of-a-kind watch. Dad lets no one touch it except the clockman. One day Will's curiosity gets the best of him and ends up wearing the watch. Chapter 2. Will meets a new person named Ozymandias. The vagrant is kind of weird and sometimes acts like a crazy person, but Will still wants to be his friend. Will's dad doesn't like him to hang out with Ozymandias, but that doesn't stop him. He then goes to the den and finds the vagrant that used to murder children. The vagrant tells Will and Ozymandias that he doesn't murder. He tells him about the tripods and how to avoid them. He then gives him a map and a compass to lead him to the White Mountains. Chapter 3. In this chapter, Henry's mother died, and this along with the fact that the moon wasn't giving enough light. Henry had come and started to live with Henry because his mom felt bad for him and had to share a room with Henry, which made Will leave town. Henry had found out and joined Will for the journey. In the beginning of their journey, Will tried running away from Henry, but finds out he had the bag of food, so he gave up. He then realized he had to take Henry all the way to the White Mountains. That evening, a group of sheep started chasing them. Thinking they were people, they fled off, leading Will to a sprained ankle. Henry had to carry him to a hut. When Will woke up, he saw that Henry went missing. Thinking he had abandoned him, Will thought he would be capped. But he then comes back with food he had stole. He then tells Henry about Ozymandias and the map and compass.
Will sprains his ankle, but then later on sees Captain Curtis. They travel to the seas and finally get ahead, but saw a tripod. Finally, when they got to the place, some people caught them and Beanpole got them out and decided that they would travel with them. Then Beanpole went to the Shaman Fair with everyone. And then, after traveling for a while, it was nighttime and they slept in a dry ditch. Later on, while traveling, they saw the lost city. Will, when they were looking at the stores, Will saw, as he says, Aladdin's cave. He saw a gold watch and took one, but decides not to tell Henry because it reminds him of when he took his father's watch and Henry stole it. But later on, Will gets ill and rests in a nearby shack. People noticed him. When Will woke up, he was in a luxurious bed and soon falls in love with Princess Eloise and decides to let Beanpole and Henry go ahead.
Chapter 7. When Will wakes up, he remembers that Beanpole and Henry are gone, but he also remembers that it's the crowning of the queen. At night, when the party's over, he decides to catch up with the boys. So he took a horse named Arstride, but when trying to escape, a tripod captured Will. Chapter 8. When Will caught up with the boys, he told them what had happened with the tripod and how he had escaped from the castle. Then they saw some rivers and noticed that the second river had a few devices in it, and Henry had thought that it was part of an aquatic shaman fair.
Chapter 9. Will is laying down with his arms behind his head, and Beanpole saw under his arm it was a big silver-like button, and Beanpole thought that the tripods were following them by that button, and they were trying to cut it off, and they did. Will was in pain for a long time. Chapter 10. In the beginning of this chapter, they just defended the tripod and start to run up the hill, but Will collapsed in hunger and pain, and they survived it all.